I'm Randy Alvarez. You're listening to the Randy Alvarez podcast, also watching this live on the Wellness Hour. Big topic today, we're talking about cracking the metabolic code, about possibly jump-starting your metabolism, having it work in your favor. But with us, we have a world expert on the topic. He is, I've known him for quite some time and known of him for quite some time. And I think if you're a medical doctor studying longevity medicine, you pretty much know who Jim LaValle is. Jim, welcome to the program.
It's great to be here.
Now, you are a pharmacist.
I'm a clinical pharmacist, right.
And you're also the co-chair of one of the biggest societies in the world where doctors get together and study longevity medicine, the American Academy of Antiaging Medicine.
That's right.
You run that nutrition program.
I'm the co-chair for their education, their fellowship. Absolutely.
And a fellowship is where they learn.
They're learning how to apply, I would say, diet, lifestyle, nutrients. How do I take someone and actually rejuvenate them and teach them in an evidence-based way so they can start to really track what they're doing for individuals.
Okay. Now, this is a big topic. We're just I don't even know where to start with a guy like that. But we should mention, look, I know your age, you're 60 plus. I also saw a picture of you without your shirt on. I saw you. You are ripped. You're in great shape. You walk your talk.
That's right.
And so that's good too. You also told me what you eat, and it seems like very flavorful.
Right.
Good food. You also don't work out like a crazy man.
That's right.
So it's good. But let me talk, and I'm going to let you do all the talking on this interview. But at the beginning, I want people to know that as a pharmacist, back 22 years ago, and I think about when I met you, that medical doctors didn't know about bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. The pharmacists were teaching the medical doctors how to do it, the strengths, how to cycle it, different dosing. And also, they didn't really know about supplementation. It was like the pharmacist's job back then, and then it shifted, right?
It did, yeah.
Because they have the credibility of the MD after their name, right?
Right.
But you're an accomplished guy. You've written probably more than 15, 20 books, published at least 4 books, author of Your Blood Never Lies, and author of Cracking the Metabolic Code. So let's begin with, what is this metabolism?
Well, everybody thinks your metabolism is how many calories am I burning, right? I mean, am I burning a lot of calories or not a lot of calories? And really, I'm redefining that term metabolism, not because it's me, but it's because what's in the literature, right? So your metabolism it's the sum total of all of the reactions going on in your body, my body right now, that's making me feel the way I feel.
Okay.
Right now. And more importantly, where my future health is taking me. And that process of your metabolism is going on since the time you're in your mother's womb. So all the influences of your life, what you've been exposed to, the way you ate, what you exercised, how much stress you under, what kind of sleep did you get, all that stuff. What kind of drug therapy are you on? Sometimes drug therapies can deplete nutrients. You might be on them for a long time. All those things influence who you are today, and more importantly, where you're moving. And so metabolism is a lot more than just, hey, am I burning calories or not? Because for a lot of people, they're overweight. They feel sluggish. They're achy. They don't think as sharp as they think they should. They're not able to sleep at night.
Okay.
They have all kinds of issues that are going on. All of that is pivoting around how their metabolism is performing.
Okay. Now, this whole concept of diseases associated with aging, diabetes, a little bit of dementia or brain fog,
right?
Aches and pains. So it was normal, I guess, for an 80-year-old to have a little bit of diabetes, type 2 diabetes,
right,
but not for a 12-year-old or 15-year-old. So it seems like the people now, osteoporosis was normal in 80-year-olds, now they're getting it in their 30s. So I guess we're trying to push off as far as we can these diseases associated with aging.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to interview you about, because
right.
that's what you do.
That's right.
In your clinic there in San Clemente, California, is that where it is?
It's actually Mission Viejo, right? Foothill Ranch, Mission Viejo, right? Well, I love the term that finally came out. I wrote the book Cracking the Metabolic Code back in 2002, and it was trying to get people to understand, what? Stress relates to your blood sugar. And when your stress hormones are high and your blood sugar goes up, and then your thyroid hormones slow down, you're going to gain weight and feel fatigued, right? It's a relationship that's going on in your body. You're not just an adrenal gland, and you're not just a pancreas. Your whole body's communicating at the same time. And I think it's really important for people to get that. Now, let's move to 2019, 2020, 2021. What's being talked about in the medical literature? Metaflamation. And metaflamation is what they're saying leads people to chronic diseases of aging. So what is metaflamation? Metabolic inflammation. So it's going back to that thought of your metabolism is more than how many calories you're burning. It is the sum total of all the chemistry going on in your body right now that is leading you either towards a chronic illness or hopefully leading you to chronic wellness.
So it's how your body's reacting to the foods you're eating.
It's how your body's reacting to the food you're eating, to the stress you're under, to the amount of sleep you get. How much are you exercising? Are you over-exercising, under-exercising? What medications you've been on? What are you exposed to from the environment, right? We hear about people that get exposed to environmental burden.
Okay.
It's the what is in your funnel. Where are your genetics at? Once again, where's your genetics at? Where's your diet at? Where's the drugs that you've been on through your life? What's the stress level? What's the amount of exercise? All these things are pouring into that funnel, and the output of that funnel is either pushing you towards feeling ill, developing a chronic illness, or feeling well. And a good example is heart disease. Everybody talks about heart disease. Okay. It's no longer thought about heart. It's an inflammatory condition. You hear it's an immune-mediated condition, meaning when you start to have chronic metabolic inflammation, okay, it's turning on different messengers in your immune system that's triggering little inflammatory processes all over your body, and especially in the inner linings of your arteries, that's leading to things like heart disease.
So, with your program, somebody that their dad died of a heart attack, uncle died of a heart attack, they've got the gene, they go to you, you do testing.
Right.
That shows them where they are now,
right,
where the direction they're headed.
Right.
And through nutrition, through supplementation, through behavior changes, you're able to stack the odds in their favor that they're not going to have that heart attack.
That's exactly right. That's what we work towards, is how can we change behavior, your chemistry. Now, where's your chemistry at right now? Are your blood sugars high? Do you have a lot of oxidized cholesterol in your body? How do we start to change your chemistry through diet, lifestyle, behavior modification, and then also what nutrients does your body need? And then, some people, sometimes they need to be on medication. So whether it's our medical director or nurse practitioner, we make an evaluation and go, you may need to be on a medication. It might be that that's where you're at. But the bottom line is, over 38 years of seeing patients, and I mean, in my first clinic in Ohio, some 300 patients a week walked through and got personalized care, right? We've seen thousands and thousands of lives be able to change their health equation and change that directory towards chronic illness to chronic health by chronic health, right?
Okay.
What's wrong with chronic health? We always talk about chronic illness. Let's talk about being chronically well, right? And I also like to use the term performance health. We all want to perform better as we're aging, right? I know for me, I've got a 21-year-old son. He wants to go into the gym with me. He still wants dad to push a little bit. I'm 60, right? It's like, I've got to be able to keep thinking, I want to be vital for my son, my grandkids. I mean, I want to be vital and be at the top of my game. And I think we've just seen over 38 years of work, and also teaching thousands of doctors that give feedback on the education that's given, that you can make a difference in people's lives. The only thing I'm going to say to it is that it's work, but it's worth it. It's work. You got to work at your health.
It's work because you've got to change the way you're eating.
You got to change what you're eating. You got to take some pills. You got to try to exercise. You got to move. Because I think what we're all looking for is that magic bullet, right?
But you do it scientifically. You look at where they are.
Absolutely. Now. We look at where they are. We look at their labs. We look at how they feel. So when we developed the Metabolic Code platform, it was really to say, because here's what happens.
By the way, this Metabolic Code, this is like a series of blood tests?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so the way it actually works is, for years I would see people, and they would have a list of symptoms that they had. All kinds of symptoms, right? I'm tired after I eat, I crash, if I go too long without eating, I'm foggy headed, I don't sleep well, I'm achy, whatever. They have all these symptoms. Okay. And then they go and do a blood test and their doctor says, you're fine. you're 40 now, you should expect to feel bad. Right? That was kind of the old way back 40 years ago. I mean, I'm going back a long time ago. Then you have people come in and they say, I feel great. And you look at their labs, and they got all kinds of problems in their labs. So the truth is, the way we assess individuals is we want to look at how they feel. We want to look at an advanced set of lab panels that, I mean, they're written about in all the medical journals, but we look at advanced lab panels. We look at biometrics. What's your blood pressure? What's your heart rate? What's your BMI? What's your percent body fat? And now, of course, with this, wearable data, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's funny because people are so stressed out now that we have to actually be told when to breathe, right? I mean, it's like, oh, time to breathe. I got to stop right now, right? It's telling me it's time to take a deep breath. And you take all of that and then also collect what meds are you on? And then how are you eating, as we instruct you on how to eat. And then what's your exercise regimen like? Are you fulfilling the exercise regimen that you picked that you could do? And so now we're getting a complete picture of what a person's doing in order to change their lifestyle. Because, you know, I don't care whether you look at conventional medicine. Look, I taught 17 years at the College of Pharmacy, and I was a preceptor at the College of Medicine at the University of Cincinnati. Even then, it's rare to see more than 3 drugs studied together at the same time, yet people are on 5 and 6 drugs together at the same time, and we really don't have any evidence to support that. It's the same thing, I say the same thing to when we're giving a bunch of dietary supplements to people. Let's start showing the evidence of how a person's changing their life and how they're feeling, how do their labs differ, how's their quality of life differ, how's their biometrics differ, so that you can actually start to know you're feeling better and doing better, because that's what counts.
So you'll know it because you feel better.
Yeah.
You sleep better. Better concentration.
I'm less anxious. I'm less nervous. I'm not craving foods as bad. I'm losing body fat. And I think that's the part that we end up losing.
Tell me this, is this approach, right? Like no matter what it is, somebody watching this, listening to this, they have autoimmune, they have lupus, they have MS is running in their family, they have arthritis, back pain, whatever. Basically, what you're doing is you are eliminating all the bad stuff in their lives, like detoxing them from some of the bad stuff.
Right.
Giving them good food, good nutrition, smart exercise, and those things go away. Oftentimes.
Well, many times the symptoms can go away. I think you get on murky water with conventional docs saying, oh, you know, you can't reverse, you know, an MS case, but you sure can get them to feel a lot better. So you can slow that progression down dramatically. And look, the way I look at this, because I work with athletes in all 5 major league sports.
Okay.
I've taught special forces healthcare professionals that deal with our special forces. I've worked with Olympians. And I work with the NFL, the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So the Pro Football Hall of Fame, where you have now a performance health program in it. So there's that side of people reaching to just maintain their performance. And then the other half of the people that I work with are folks that, you know, have MS, have rheumatoid arthritis.
Potato?
They're plenty of couch potatoes, people that aren't moving enough, right? I mean, I have people that, you know, they go work out 45 minutes a day and the rest of the day they're sitting and they think they need to have to drink a pre-workout drink, a post-workout drink, an intra-workout drink, and you only worked out 45 minutes. You know, you don't need that much nutrition if you're only moving 45 minutes a day, right? And so I think the big thing to realize is no matter who you are or what stage of life you're at, the first rule that I always live by and try to teach is that people deserve vitality at every stage in life. So if it's an 8-year-old that's having trouble or an 80-year-old that's having trouble, how do we help people move to that next level of feeling they have vitality, they feel well, they enjoy chronic wellness, and they're able to perform at their best. And that also means that whether you're an athlete, you're struggling with a health condition, or trying to lose weight, what I have tried to do over all the years of teaching, you know, teaching docs, pharmacists, nurses, dietitians, you name it, fitness coaches, you know, we've done huge programs.
We should mention that medical doctors from all over the world listen to your lectures at the American Academy of Antiaging Medicine.
Yes, they do.
I mean, this is your topic. This is what you do.
That is correct. Yeah, that's right. And so it's whatever your roadblock is metabolically. I'm an athlete and I lost my power. I'm struggling with my irritable bowel, or I'm struggling to lose weight. Our real goal should be is to understand how to make that person's chemistry more whole. Now, I love the term anti-aging medicine, but at the same time, I've never taken somebody who's my age and seen them become a baby. I need them to be their best version of a 60-year-old, right? We need to be our best version of a 55-year-old, our best version of a 35-year-old who is aging and extending their health span and feeling like they've got the capacity and the vitality and the youthfulness to enjoy their life. That's really
Do you see
all we
reversals?
try.
Do you see reversals like this in your clinic?
Sure.
Every day, like a guy that just felt lousy, he's lost that zest, that get up and go, or the woman that all of a sudden her interest in sex has gone down, her concentration isn't very good, her skin is starting to get crepey. Do you see changes with these protocols where all of a sudden they're on top of the world?
Of course. But I want to say it's work. I mean, once again, you have to change your diet. You've got to be willing. Look, I told you before we started on the show that my father was one of the most decorated chefs in the world. I would open up my refrigerator when I was 7 years old, and I would have a 3-pound vat of chocolate mousse to select from.
Okay.
Chocolate mousse. We're not talking about just having some basic stuff, you know? And so I had to learn, as I started to train and got into fitness, I had to learn how to eat and make choices that made me feel my best. And I also appreciated good food. And there's somehow this construct that people think you can't eat healthy and have fun with food, which I think is an absolute, it's a shame, because you can eat incredibly healthy. You can go into any restaurant and order some amazing stuff and still eat healthy and still enjoy your food. And by the way, help contribute to that bucket or that funnel of you feeling well versus instead of moving down that path towards feeling unwell.
So do you think you're going to live to 120, 140, 160?
I
Do you
don't
have a
know.
prediction? What do you think?
You know what?
You must have a goal.
I really don't. You know what I have?
You don't want to jinx yourself? You must have an idea. Do you think for sure over 100?
My dad's 90 years old.
Okay.
My father's 90 years old right now. He actually lives with us. And he's still pretty robust at 90. And I'm going to do his genes to compare him to my genes, because I'm hoping I got his genes and not my mom's genes, because God bless her soul, she's passed away. But my point is, I would hope that I can make it to 90. I think anything over 90, just look at the real world, anything over 90 is amazing for individuals. But I really don't look at it that way. You know what I'm worried about?
What?
I'm worried about getting up tomorrow morning and being able to get on that treadmill and run 3 miles or take a 5-mile walk or be able to enjoy vitality right now. That's what I worry. That's how I think. I have a lot of people, a lot of my colleagues that talk about, I'm going to live to 120, I'm going to live to 110.
Okay.
Good. But my goal is really to wake up every morning,
Have lots of energy.
and have lots of energy and feel good and be able to be productive, contribute, enjoy my life. And if I make it to 90 doing that, obviously if I make it to 100 doing that, I'm gonna be way happier than if I made it to 90. But at the same time, I'm not gonna focus on that and obsess about that.
Do you think, I've been to the American Academy of Antiaging Medicine meetings in Florida and Las Vegas.
Sure.
And they describe this like a light bulb, like you're, in a perfect world. Like a guy, you burn, like a light bulb goes and one day it's just off. That would be ideal. You live to 95, 98, you have energy, you have memory, you have sex drive.
Well, that's what I'm
And then all
hoping
of a sudden
for.
you're dead.
That's what I'm hoping for. I don't want to have that downward spiral where people say, all right, you're 50. Well, you got blood pressure problems. Now we got to give you a blood pressure med. And gee, your lipids are high. Now we're going to give you something for your lipids. And oh boy, your blood pressure and your lipids are high. And now your blood sugar's going up. Now we got to give you something for that. And this is nothing against I'm a pharmacist. I'm a clinical pharmacist. I'm a member of the American College of Clinical Pharmacy. I believe in the wonders of modern medicine. However, we all know that polypharmacy exists. The more drugs you're on, the more risk that can occur. And so my goal is to try to teach people hey, how can you stave off that need for drug therapy by changing your lifestyle, looking at evidence-based for nutrients that you should take for your situation. And yes, how do you move? How do you do behavior modification? You're going to do some deep breathing, de-stress your nervous system. You take control and empower your health. I ask people all the time. People will spend more time, actually, they'll spend way more time on researching their next refrigerator they're going to buy than how to stay healthy, or the next car they're going to buy, or the next living room set they're going to buy. And I really want them to change. We need to change that paradigm. I think this last year showed that.
Prevention's hard to sell, as you know. Like whenever we do programs on preventing this or preventing that, who cares? But reversing heart disease, reversing type 2, now they're all ears.
Well, I think
because we're talking about prevention in a way, but we're also talking about somebody comes to you, I guess everybody comes to you with different damage to their, as you call it, a metabolism.
Their metabolism, that's right. That's metaflamation.
Okay. And so if you're an athlete and you want to keep that edge,
that's right.
Or if you're a couch potato that never had that edge and wants to get it, this is what you work with. Is it all kind of the same recipe in a way?
Well, it's the same recipe as there's inputs and outputs. Obviously, when an athlete's coming in who's training 4 hours a day or 6 hours a day, they have different need sets than somebody who maybe is a couch potato, right? Their chemistries actually might not look that different.
Okay.
So whether you're overstressed from physical training that's too robust and you haven't recovered, or you're somebody who doesn't train enough and therefore doesn't stress your system enough, you can end up with a very similar chemistry that's going on. And by the way, the term that is associated with metaflamation is inflammaging. Inflammatory aging, right? So when you're metabolically inflamed, my metabolism is throwing off all these inflammatory chemicals. Like you said, my bone loss is occurring. I'm becoming insulin resistant. I'm starting to lose neurons in the brain, neuroinflammation, very hot topic now. And then even more importantly, if we get very far down that funnel, is I start to lose energy in my cells, right? I start to lose what's called mitochondrial capacity, the ability to generate energy in my cells. Metaflamation pushes you towards that process. And when I'm no longer making energy, and I'm insulin resistant, and when you're insulin resistant, you're damaging your tissues quicker than when you're not. And when I'm losing bone and I'm calcifying my arteries, inflammatory aging.
You could stop that and reverse it.
And you stop that and you reverse that by changing your lifestyle. Look, this has been around for a while. We know that people with diabetes or people that are insulin resistant that institute change in lifestyle, meaning they start to move, responsible diet, they start to change the way they think about their eating, they literally see their blood sugars reverse, the weight loss comes off, and many times in several studies where they showed it was more effective than drug therapy. So the power of your lifestyle and dietary choices, even when you go to anti-aging medicine conferences, a lot of times we want to find that magic bullet.
Yeah, I've been there.
I'd love to have a magic bullet.
I saw a thyroid speech 22 years ago, a guy named Neil Rouzier.
Oh, sure. Neil's a very smart doctor.
I heard his thyroid speech. I literally was praying to God on the way home that I had a thyroid problem. I took the test, turned out I didn't have a thyroid problem. But I did have a metabolic problem or a genetic problem, and it was at the end of my fork. I was eating like my parents. That's the joke I like to say.
That's exactly right. And so I think what we try, and I'm a big believer in you have to push the envelope farther on looking for and looking deeper into our metabolism and understanding how we correct them. So we have folks that find out that information and they start to write about things like thyroid support and why it's important, or why sex hormones may be of importance to you as you're aging. And then there's individual nutrients. One of my favorite individual nutrients, aged garlic extract. 850 publications on it that shows that it regresses vulnerable plaque in your arteries.
Garlic does.
Aged garlic extract.
Aged garlic extract.
So it's different than eating garlic, because you can eat garlic, and it's good. Garlic is good for you. But when they aged it, and this is a Japanese company that did this, when they aged it and then they started doing clinical studies. So Matt Budoff. So if you know Matt Budoff, UCLA,
heard the name.
Yeah, UCLA School of Cardiology, teaches interventional cardiologist. He's doing clinical trials on people showing that it's literally changing the inner lining of the artery when you take this stuff versus placebo. See, to me, there's
Your books, by the way, have all of this stuff in them.
Oh yeah, my books have all 22 of them. I've got all kinds of pearls in them, but probably one of the best ones for that, if you're interested in learning how to read a lab test to see how far you're away from being well, that's the way I like to talk about it. Your doctor can diagnose you if you have an illness. when I wrote Your Blood Never Lies,
Okay.
I did that because I wanted to teach people, well, how far are you away from being well? Where are you trending with your labs? A perfect example?
That's good.
Perfect example of this. Blood glucose. Kaiser Permanente. You've heard of Kaiser, right?
Yes.
We're here in California. You know Kaiser Permanente. 46,572 lives over 10 years, they studied blood sugar. And for what they found out was for every point above 84, it represented a 6% risk of being diabetic in the next decade.
Okay.
So you have a 95 blood sugar. You know what that is? That's called a normal blood sugar. But you know what that means?
What?
You have a 60% risk of being a diabetic in the next decade.
And everything associated with that.
Well, yes, because once you're a person with diabetes, you're more at risk for heart disease. And a lot of people don't realize you're more at risk for cancer. So people that become pre-diabetic, diabetic, and from pre-diabetes to diabetes comes heart disease and cancer.
And these are all food, people that are eating poorly, eating wrong.
For the most part, it's people that are eating wrong. Maybe it's because you're not sleeping enough and your stress is high, or maybe you have sleep apnea, right? If you have sleep apnea, your blood sugar can go up. But for the most part, look, let's face it. People, when they get stressed out, they don't stop on the way home and buy a stock of broccoli. Yeah, right? Right. They go to two places.
You get a beer.
They go to the liquor store or they stop at the bakery, right? I'm going to have some nachos. I'm going to have a donut. I'm going to have a cookie. I'm going to have a drink. They're not thinking, man, I can't wait to get home and get that broccoli. That's going to make me feel so good, right?
Right.
But unfortunately, we don't really teach people about how to optimize their health. I mean, and this is look, we've got so many healthcare crises going on. But I think when we start to peel back where we've failed so far, I mean, look, I went through pharmacy school. I started pre-pharmacy in 1978, right? So it's been a long time for me watching healthcare. And I've done some pretty big programs educating people across the country. So, I kind of get what's going on. I think we still fall down at trying to actually help people understand that it's not just a pill that's going to save you.
But it's understanding enough, and this is my only issue. Okay, so everybody knows you got to eat some pretty good lean protein, good oils, good vegetables, right? But so knowing all that, how do you get them to do it? Like, I was in that boat. I spent my whole life, I told you, on a diet, hungry all the time, but I wasn't the typical person. I'm reading every book I possibly can, listening to guys like you, but the average person's not going to do that.
Yeah.
So how do you take a person to give them the leverage to actually take action with their goals?
Well, I think there's a lot going on now in behavioral modification. Like teaching people to take smaller steps at a time instead of thinking they have to be perfect. It depends on where they're at, right? When somebody comes into our facility and if they're really sick, we may have to give them more steps to do at the first visit because, you know what, you're really sick. We got to kind of get you over the hump here. But I think for a lot of people, starting to make incremental change is important. Okay. I think understanding, you know what a lot of people never understood is, why do I get home from work and I look at that bag of potato chips and go, oh, I love you, potato chips.
Okay.
You're my favorite friend in the world. And you'll eat the bag of potato chips and you'll find yourself licking your finger to get the bottom of the salt out of that and the last crumbs out of that because your brain is telling you, eat that last chip. You got to keep going.
So how do you reverse that?
Well, that's a great question, right? So what I found out is I can use nutrients to reverse that. If I start to explain that the reason you're eating after 5 o'clock is that because your stress response all day long, you're running from a white tiger all day long, and your serotonin pool is dropping out and your dopamine pools are dropping out. So the chemicals in your brain that are helping you to feel like you've got reward and you have satiety, they're going away because you're in your 10th week.
So you lose your control by 5 o'clock.
You'll lose your control by 5 o'clock. And
Interesting.
So here's a couple things you can do. One is I teach people how to do just 2 minutes of deep breathing a couple times a day. Just 2 minutes. Do it mid-morning and do it mid-afternoon before you hit home. Just 2 minutes of box breathing, right? Okay. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds, and then hold, 4 in, hold, 4 out, hold. And then that starts to reset your nervous system. The other thing is, that's where nutrients shine. So Relora, which is a magnolia and philodendron extract, actually has an FTC claim, and you know how hard it is to get FTC claims on a natural product. It actually helps people to reduce their stress-related eating patterns. And it does so because it acts to calm them down. So it reduces their satiety issue with food. So I'll first start somebody out and say, you know what, take this while you're learning how to eat and feel good about what you're eating. And then as they get better about it and they're no longer craving and they're feeling good about the foods they're eating, let's pull that away. Maybe you don't need that anymore. But it does take education and it does take targeting. Yeah, what's going on with you? Where are you at? Because I mean, I'm sure you felt this because everybody I know has felt it. You know, you eat one cookie and you go, that cookie was good. I'm gonna eat two. You eat two cookies and then you start to go into rationalization. I don't really like even numbers. I think I'm gonna go for that third cookie.
And then you write the whole day off and just say, I'm gonna eat the bag. That was me in the old days.
You just said it. You just said it for me. That's exactly what happens with a lot of people. And we're not teaching them that, you know what, you can kind of overcome that, but you're going to have to understand how you get satisfied. And part of it's fats. I know you told me kind of how you figured it out. And I think that's great.
I mean, I happen to eat the way you recommend anyway.
I know. It was kind of interesting when we talked. It was like, wow, you could have been
because I've learned from guys like you and the guys you've trained, I've learned from.
Right. But a lot of people don't associate daytime stress with nighttime eating patterns or daytime stress with nighttime sleeping problems.
Like when I don't sleep, I get insomnia at least once a month. Maybe I keep claiming that. That's why I keep getting them about once a month.
Right.
Well, that next day I'm starving out of my mind. That next day, it's like, and because I guess I didn't rebuild my neurotransmitters. You're saying that some people, their stresses, they don't even realize they're stressing them out, whether they're looking at the computer, doing a lot of stuff, inactivity, that these things that's why they're hungry at night.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Well, I mean, you know what? It's interesting. They used to call it several years ago, night eating syndrome. Night eating syndrome, really? I mean, it's because your brain inappropriately takes on too much stress during the day. And let's face it, I've lived long enough to know my world is way different than it was in 1965 when I was a 5-year-old, you know?
Okay.
I remember my world and now I look at the amount of things that we have to process. Think of the emails that you get, the text messages you get. How many days a week people have to work now, right?
Yeah, but those emails and text messages, those are stimulating hormones?
Sure.
That can be making you hungry?
Have you ever gotten an email that made you feel anxious or nervous?
Yeah. My CPA is like, what? I mean, it's true.
Exactly. You're like, huh? Right? Or maybe...
So that lingers with me a little while?
It can linger with you for sure because it's another white tiger, response. It's, and then think about that impacting you over the course of the day. So you literally are loading. So when you think of insomnia, if you look up the definition of insomnia, what do you think it is? Failure to sleep? No, it's a disorder of hyperarousal.
Interesting.
Meaning your brain takes on too much arousal during the day, and because you're still all jacked up from all that stress during the day, you go into the night and your body's supposed to release melatonin, and it can't. Because the signal for stress hormones is still pushing forward and hasn't dropped down. And what do we do when we go home at night? Let's turn on all the lights we can in the house. Right? There's no signal to dampen that light response. How am I going to get off that blue light? And how am I going to start to unwind myself in order to lower that? And you got to remember, when you're talking about this whole metaflamation process, lack of sleep, eating off a circadian rhythm, there's a lot of evidence now showing that we're supposed to eat during the day and we're not supposed to eat so much once we get past 7 p.m., right? So people are talking about time-restricted eating. But the reality is we're meant to take in nutrients during the day and then we're supposed to settle out on that at night. How many people you know that have their dinners after 8 p.m.?
A lot of them.
It's pretty common, right? And yet we're not talking about that. And you have to remember, that's what's starting to create the milieu or the terrain of inflammatory signaling in your body known as metaflamation.
So you can convert these people, because as I'm listening to this, because I've been on this journey, and I'm at a point now where food doesn't even exist in my life anymore. I don't even think about it. I'm like some of my skinny friends. It's like, oh, geez, I got to eat. That's what's happened to me these days. Where I can logically eat food now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So somebody listening to this are going, man, that sounds like a lot of work, and I got to do these deep breathing, and is it real, So you can convert somebody in like 30, 60 days? Like if somebody is coachable, they're saying, okay, I've tried everything. you could convert them
Right.
to where they're eating better, sleeping better, and then, of course, they're going to lose body fat along the way, but then they're going to start feeling better, and their blood work will show.
Absolutely. I mean, we've done it for
And all the
30
diseases
years.
of aging are now, they're at lower risk for cancer, type 2 diabetes, depression, anxiety, all those things.
Yeah, of course, because if they're feeling better and they're no longer expressing those kind of things, that's why I order labs that matter. You know, what's your glucose like? What are your lipids like? You have to look at those labs that are associated with the diseases of aging, and then here's the program. Where do labs go? How are you feeling? Because my big criticism in the space is, and I would say one of my biggest criticisms is that people will go, to get work in kind of this, what I'd say regenerative health process or anti-aging or however you want to call it. And a lot of times they end up leaving with a big bag of pills and a one-page sheet of how to eat. And then they're left to their own device to take the pills. They don't remember what they're for. The one-page meal plan, it lasts for a couple weeks. They get discouraged. They're taking too many pills. It's too foreign to them.
Like vitamin, mineral supplements we're talking about.
Yeah,
as far as
sure.
pills.
Nutrients. It's herbs, vitamins, minerals. All of a sudden you're taking probiotics and you're taking all this stuff. But if it wasn't selected to make you feel better, so
this has to be customized to the person's situation.
Sure, that's what you want to do. You want to create a process that says what's right for me. What's right for me and you is two different things.
So you put together, and we went off track. I'm actually very excited to interview you. So I'm probably blowing this interview just because all these things I want to ask you.
It's all good. It's good.
But somebody goes to you.
Right.
You've kind of invented or actually constructed this blood work that's kind of easy for the patient to read.
Right.
And shows them, okay, this is where you are. Healthy is here. You're here. You're at 50% of your health. How do we get you to 100%?
Yeah, basically we took, for 18 years, I had grad students, whether I was teaching in the Masters in Clinical Nutrition course at the New York State School of Chiropractic and Oriental Medicine, or teaching at the College of Pharmacy and Medicine at the University of Cincinnati, or teaching at A4M. Now as a faculty member at George Washington School of Health Sciences. We would look at all the research and say, all right, what's the research say about when your homocysteine level, for example, goes up, which if your homocysteine's up, it makes you more at risk for dementia, heart disease, and kidney disease, all right? So what we did was we took all this information about labs and we connected that to a questionnaire about how people were feeling, and then we added their biometrics, right? If your heart rate's high, that means you're sympathetic dominant. You're under the attack of fight or flight response. Your resting heart rate should be below 62.
Really?
And if it's not, every 4 points above 62 represents a 7 to 10% increased cardiometabolic risk. And I'm not making these statistics up. They're the things that I found in the clinical literature that have been published. And so the report, the way we work our report is really to try to get people to understand how you're feeling, look at where your labs are showing you you're at, and then understand your biometrics. So where's your blood pressure? Where's your heart rate? What's your body weight at? What's your percent body fat?
Your numbers.
Where's your numbers? And now let's institute a program and let's track the difference in the way you feel, the way you look, and what your numbers are saying. And when you don't do that, I think you lose, and do it in a very elegant way that you can quickly show somebody. I can show you your numbers really quick. Here's where you're at. And that makes a big difference.
Does it usually match up, like with your patients? I mean, where their blood work is improving, and they say, "I feel better."
Yeah, once you get going with it, yes, it does. The thing that's the most interesting is what I've found over a lot of years, and actually, we have a whole team behind us. We've got my medical director in my group. Started the Integrative Medicine program at University of Michigan, and now he's involved in the Integrative Medicine program at George Washington School of Health Sciences, which is, by the way, the only master's program that allows doctors to sit for the boards for integrative medicine. So we're pretty tied into the importance of having good information. But what's interesting is you can have people come in and say, "Oh my God, I feel so bad. I'm not thinking real clear. I don't eat fiber. I'm constipated. I'm gassy. I'm bloated. I'm craving. I'm foggy headed. I got every symptom under the sun." Then you do their labs, And you go, oh, well, there's not too much there yet. And so what happens then? People go, oh, well, you're kind of psychosomatic maybe, right? The way I look at that is all of that process that's making you feel the way you're feeling hasn't distilled down to changing your chemistry yet.
Okay.
Then I got the other people that they come in and say, I feel great. I feel fine. I'm awesome. And I look at their labs, and this is common a lot of times when people do certain diets where they'll maybe do a ketogenic diet, but at the same time, they may have gene SNPs like a ApoE3444 genotype where they're eating a high-fat diet and a high-saturated fat diet, and their lipids are going up and their triglycerides are going up, but they're losing weight. So they think that beauty on the outside equals beauty on the inside. And so it's one of those, and I'm not saying anything about, for some people, ketogenic diet might work. I'm not making a critical statement about any one diet. My point is,
you believe in low carb eating. We should establish that.
I believe in and definitely lower carb eating, without a doubt. And what I really believe in is people should learn how to eat vegetables.
Okay.
That's the first one.
I caught you at lunch out there, ordered a big pile of broccoli.
It is what it is. I didn't.
Okay,
there's no lying, man.
Okay.
Right? So it wouldn't be too effective, right? If I didn't do that. But my point is, yes, I first of all believe people need to eat way more vegetables. And then in terms of carbs, if you're a hockey player skating 4 or 5 hours a day, you're going to need more carbs to restore that glycogen than somebody like maybe you or me that maybe we work out an hour, 5 days a week, 6 days a week. Well, we don't need the carbo load for our workouts, So the point being is eat responsibly, right? And then other people will do this. They'll say, well, look, I feel fantastic, and their labs are just bad. And it's because even though they're feeling pretty good, or maybe they're not aware that they could feel better, but their labs are showing that they're in trouble. So what do we need to do? We need to merge the way you feel with where your labs and biomarkers are at, with what your biometrics are saying, like what's your autonomic nervous system doing, heart rate variability. You can get that on one of these, right? What's going on with your blood pressure? If your blood pressure is starting to trend high, that means that white tiger is getting the best of your heart and your neurovascular network. You're starting to pump out more adrenaline. Those blood vessels are getting stiff. And now I'm going to accelerate my aging process. And I think what we start to do is we start to think, well, there's nothing I can do now. It's too late.
No.
And I believe it's never too late to change. I've had plenty of 80-year-olds come to me. I've had 90-year-olds come to me. I've had, in our clinic in Ohio, I had an OB-GYN doc who was in my institute. We had plenty of 8-year-olds come in. And you know what? People deserve vitality at every stage in life, and you need to assess what you're doing to understand how you feel right now today. And then you need to get a plan made that's right for you that's doable.
Okay.
It's doable. Because the other thing I find is that people end up having to try to do things that are so stringent that they end up failing. And that's the
boring.
big issue.
I mean, I have somebody that works with me, our general manager, said, Randy, I want to live a little though. I enjoy food. I'm going, I totally enjoy food.
Right. It's about making selections. I mean, I have people that come to me and they go, when do I get to have another piece of pizza? That's the first thing I ask. When do I get to have another piece of pizza? I literally just had this week. I bring my pizza in from Chicago. That's how much I like pizza. And I said, well, look, if that's the make or break thing about you following what I need you to follow, bring a pizza in every 6 weeks. I don't care.
Yeah, but what if you could eliminate the craving for pizza?
Well, isn't
that where you want to go?
Well, see, that's the whole magic of allowing someone to have a little of what they think they want. Because I already know after 38 years that if I get people eating healthy for 4 weeks, then they go and eat something that they used to think they loved, typically the response is, oh, that didn't make me feel too good.
Yeah.
And now I'm not.
It almost becomes not worth it.
Well, no, that's the decision people then make.
Like I had a slice of pizza a month ago and it was like, I felt terrible. I go, is this what other people must feel like?
Yeah, and look, I'm an Italian. I'm not against pizza, but I'm just saying that what happens with people is a lot of times they're given such a strict thing to start with in terms of changing their health.
Okay.
Or how many times have you seen this? A person goes into the gym. They go into the gym and the 21-year-old trainer, takes the 45-year-old person that hasn't trained in 20 years and they get so sore that they go, I can't do this. So it's understanding.
So you don't believe in cold turkey? You're slowly tapering them off the bad things in their lives?
It depends where they're at.
Okay.
So once again, I'm going to go back to if the sicker someone is, the more we demand a little bit of rigidity, right? Like, I really need you to follow this for the first 4 weeks so that we can see where you're at. If you're someone who comes into me, or it's the way I teach everybody, or you come into our facility and people say, you know what, I can't do this. All right, what can you do? What steps can you make? Because the one thing I can tell you is I don't have any magic bullets. There's no magic pills. There's no magic injections. There's no magic drugs. But there is your empowerment, meaning you empower yourself to make choices that are going to change the way you feel. And then we can use the power of chemistry. Where is your chemistry at? I can help you with those choices because now you're not getting cravings anymore, or you're not getting leg cramps anymore because we get your magnesium pulled back up and now your legs feel better and you have energy and you can walk. So there's the power of understanding your chemistry, but most importantly, you have to get to the point of saying, I want vitality. I want to feel well. I'm empowered to make choices. And it's not easy. Once again, I'm not sitting there trying to tell you that this is like the easiest thing in the universe, but you did it.
I did.
You did it. I did it. And you know what?
I don't feel deprived anymore ever. I never feel deprived.
Yeah, you look great. I mean, you and I are relatively, we're about the same age, right? I mean, and a lot of it has to do with just, there has to be a change in understanding your chemistry and what do I do about that? And then where's my lifestyle at? Be honest with yourself as to what your goals are. Everybody doesn't necessarily want to, I tell people, look, don't think you're going to be 16 again. But for example, I'm at the weight I was when I was 15 years old. Okay. Right now, today, 45 years later. And I wasn't always that way. I got up to 283 pounds when I was getting ready to play football, on this little, 5'11" frame. So, I mean, I had plenty of mass. So my point is, you have to make realistic goals for yourself. And what I find is once people get on that journey and you're starting to get those goals, they're like, I can go farther. I can feel better. Feeling better is actually addictive.
Okay.
Right? It is. Yeah. I see it in my folks all the time. I mean, feeling better is addictive. They get motivated. Then I got to start to pull the reins back a little bit. It's like, whoa, you don't have to go that far. You don't have to go to that extreme. It's about finding that balance.
The people that you see, I'm trying to be devil's advocate in a way
Sure.
here.
Yeah,
the people you see, they've got the money to spend. And by the way, I know the cost of your program. Your program is less than 1 month of my PPO insurance, right?
Right.
And I mean, it doesn't cost a lot of money to get a doctor that knows what they're doing to help reverse your disease or whatever. But the people that you see are a different type of a person. They're a little more educated. They're the Whole Foods crowd. They're trying to get a little bit better. But I'm saying to the average person, like I'd like to send this to some of my relatives. They don't read books on nutrition. Yeah. They're not going to get a concierge doctor. Can you take somebody that is just really lost with their oatmeal and banana every morning when they're on a diet, eating lots of fruit, okay, and counting their calories every day.
Right.
They're hungry all the time.
Right.
Can you take that couch potato on a limited budget to follow your program and reverse these diseases associated with aging?
It's a great question, and I will, because I know you're playing devil's advocate, so I'll push back and tell you that first of all, I don't advertise.
Okay. Yeah.
And the reason I don't advertise is that I want people to be motivated to come to me. And so when people call to come into our facility,
they're ready. They're a little more ready.
They have an anticipation that this guy's going to change my diet. He's going to make me work for my health. And I wanted it that way because when I had my big institute in Ohio, we would see a lot of throughput with people, but then you get attrition because people go, I'm not as committed as I thought I was. This is actually work. You mean you don't have any magic pills? And so the reality is I have people from all walks of life. I have people that are super motivated and familiar with, Whole Foods lifestyle, if you want to call it that. But then I have people that come in and, their diet's flat out, chili nachos, cheese fries, and, pizza and hamburgers, and that's it. So it really becomes the motivation. And here's what's the motivating factor. What are you doing this for? Are you doing this because you think you should do it? Are you doing it because you have a goal in mind? Are you doing it for somebody else? Somebody's forcing you to do it? I really like people to attach to, well, what is the primary reason for you taking care of this? And I found, and I'll tell you what, we did this program with Lifetime Fitness. So you're familiar with Lifetime Fitness? They got 120 big box fitness centers across the country. They came into us about a decade ago and said, hey, we're not getting people to lose weight like we used to. I went, wow, that's, they come in, they're training with the personal trainer. We're giving them oatmeal in the morning. They're eating a banana. They're eating a fair amount of carbs. And I said, well, weight loss is more than calories in and calories out. The younger you are, that works, right? When you're young and you just restrict calories, a lot of times people will lose weight. But the older you get, it doesn't work that way anymore. And anybody that tells me differently, I can tell them, well, I'm sorry, but I had 240,000 lives.
You think counting calories is a joke?
It's yes and no. I'll tell you what I like about counting calories. A lot of people. Let me finish Lifetime, and then I'll answer that question because they kind of tie together. So first of all, what we did was we said, weight loss is more than calories in and calories out and how much you exercise. Because there are plenty of people that watch exactly how many calories to eat, exercise every day, and they didn't see that needle move for a month or 2 months or 3 months, right? You've heard those.
Yeah.
That story is pretty common. So what we did was we went in and we said, you know what? We're going to teach you about what are the factors that affect weight loss. Blood sugar, stress, sleep, water intake, consistency of exercise, the type of foods you eat. What are you selecting? We got 240,000 people to take a questionnaire. It's actually about 253,000 because 240,000 people did it. 240,000 people completed a questionnaire that pointed to where their problems were in their metabolism. And then they had an option of doing labs that would also point to it. And then they would be put on a program. And 93% of the people that took that questionnaire followed through. And then not only that, they got results with their weight loss and maintained their relationship with getting trained and working out longer because they saw results. So the net of it is people get motivated by results.
Okay.
Right? If I go to a body shop and I say, fix my fender, and I come back to pick my car up and the fender's not fixed, and he says, here's your keys.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you want to feel like something's gotten fixed. Now, you said, are calories a joke? Interesting. I used to have a contract research organization. So we used to do research. A lot of times it was on weight loss. Average person that comes in overweight, I'd ask them, my staff would ask them, how many calories do you take in a day? And they'd say 2,000. And never mind activity level. Whether they were a couch potato, they were very active. They said 2,000 calories. What do you think their actual calorie intake was when we did a survey?
Like 3,200.
4,000 calories a day.
Okay.
And you know what? I just did a professional hockey player's diet. Skating, games, practices, training. He's at 3,600 calories. So a person sitting around who's not doing much movement, eating 4,000 calories is going to gain weight. So I think that calories are important as a learning tool. I think for someone like yourself, where you're eating a lot of plants, you're eating lean protein, you're getting healthy fats, you can probably have a fair amount of wiggle room in how many calories you take. It doesn't
even matter.
It doesn't matter for you.
But 4,000, 5,000
yeah, for a lot of people when they're starting out, I think it's a great learning tool. Okay. And so I'm kind of, and I didn't used to think that way. I got to be honest with you. I used to kind of be, hey, just pick healthy foods and you'll be fine. Well, then what I found out was, people would eat 3 times the amount of food.
Yeah, well, I mean, portion size definitely,
portion size matters, right?
You don't want 14, a big 12-ounce steak.
Right.
It's too big.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So that's where I think, calories can matter. But I think what's more importantly is people selecting foods that are healthy for them. Big believer in food allergies and sensitivities.
Checking for food allergies.
Yeah, check and find out. There's advances in that testing now where there's more types of I think accuracy going on than what there was 20
Could
years
there
ago.
be foods that you're eating that are making you fat and they're not food and they're so-called health foods?
Yes. 100%.
So it shows up as something you're allergic to or have a sensitivity to.
Right.
You eliminate that from the diet and they lose weight.
Now,
Body
why?
fat.
Exactly. And why would that be? It's because if you're eating a food that triggers your immune system, what's the result of an immune system that triggers an allergy? Inflammation. And what do we start our talk off with? Metabolic inflammation. So here's another piece of the puzzle.
So if you're eating a peanut that you're allergic to.
An almond milk. Oh my God, almond milk's fantastic. But you know
Are you being
what?
sarcastic?
No, yes, I am. I'm being very sarcastic.
Almond milk, jeez.
No, I mean, I'll
You're
tell
no
you
fun
what.
at all.
Well, no, I'll tell you what. I can drink oat milk. I can drink macadamia
But
nut
for
milk.
you, almond milk
For
is not
me,
good.
almond milk wasn't good. I'm not saying almond milk's bad for everyone.
Help me understand this inflammation thing. Okay, so let's say you're allergic to almonds.
Right.
Or almond milk.
Right.
You drink it.
Right.
Your body doesn't like it. So it creates an immune response, maybe white blood cells. This is that inflammation.
Right. Release histamine.
Okay.
Right.
So now, instead of burning fat, you're just trying to get rid of this foreign invader, this almond, in your system.
Right.
Is that kind of how it works?
Well, it does, but see, why inflammation's a problem, when you think of inflammaging and metabolic inflammation, why it matters is that you start to release more inflammatory cytokines. There's one called interleukin 6, IL-6. And when that goes up in your body, your insulin receptors stop functioning effectively.
So you can't burn fat.
So you can't burn fat, and your glucose in your body, in your bloodstream goes up, and that starts to trigger more oxidative stress. What's oxidative stress? The rate of rusting in your body.
And cravings as well, possibly?
Well, cravings go up when your stress goes up, so you can start to see that. And also when your blood sugar's going up, the number one thing that plaques your arteries, and this is American College of Cardiology. This isn't me. I'm not, I'm just trying to, I quote.
I won't blame you for this.
I'm just saying, I quote the evidence. I can't help it. Postprandial rises in blood sugar. So when you eat those cookies and you eat that sugar and you have lots of carbs and your blood sugar spikes up, that rise is triggering, because your insulin then gets released. It's triggering a lot of adrenaline, noradrenaline, and it's also triggering a lot of inflammatory compounds that lead to plaquing and lead to the changes in your body that are due to inflammatory aging. And so as you're eating and you're bumping that glucose and then it's crashing, well, yeah, you're going to crave, because when that blood sugar crashes and you get a little shaky, I need to get something to eat, I need to nibble on something all day long, or I feel like I'm a little, foggy-headed. Blood sugar up, blood sugar down, blood sugar up, blood sugar down, instead of eating and having an efficient metabolism where your blood sugar can stay somewhat consistent through the course of your day. And this has been published over and over again. And so there's this component of just eating the wrong foods will trigger inflammation. And when inflammation, meaning you're releasing what I call smart bombs, little forest fires all over your body, it's making your receptors not function like they're supposed to. And now I can't carry glucose into my cell and make 38 packets of energy anymore. Now I'm making 2 packets of energy. So of course I'm hungrier, because I'm a gas-sucking SUV over here, and here I'm in a fuel-efficient vehicle. So the more I create inflammation, the more I push myself to being less efficient the way I make energy. And now I need the fuel. I gotta have that something to eat, because my body's telling me your fuel is low. But what's really happening is your fuel is inefficient and you're not making the energy that you should. That's why nutrients that can help quell metabolic inflammation. So we know people that are overweight make more interleukin 6 and TNF alpha, tumor necrosis factor alpha. Those 2 compounds getting pushed out into your body end up creating metabolic inflammation that leads to chronic degenerative diseases. It's well established. I mentioned aged garlic extract earlier.
Okay.
Proven in people that are overweight to lower their inflammatory cytokines by at least 1/3. You can do that with fish oil. Another thing that's valuable. People getting adequate magnesium in your body can do it. People eating more
All this is
responsibly
in your
can do
book.
it.
Which one of your books should somebody start with?
If they really want to learn about how their body works, Cracking the Metabolic Code.
Okay.
That's a good one.
And the second one?
I'd say your blood never lies, because once you read about how your body works, you're going to want to get a lab test and you're going to want to understand where you're at. And I've got a new metabolic code book that will be coming out this year, and I've got a performance book that's coming out this year. I've got a lot of ebooks that are out that go over these things in short form. So I think it helps people.
And I know this is a very big topic. I mean, we haven't really talked about leaky gut. We haven't even talked about many different things. But before you go, I have to ask you about bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Right?
Oh, yeah.
It's the thing that we get the most questions about. So the whole idea is, as you get older, certain hormones decline with age,
right,
and certain hormones go up with age, like insulin and cortisol. So the idea, I guess, is you replenish hormones that you lose with natural aging, and then you feel like a young person again, right? Okay, yeah. But you're saying not so right all the time.
Well, no.
So give us the truth about bioidentical hormones, which is something you know a lot about.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, I've been around bioidentical hormones for 25 years. I mean, it's not new for me. And you're right, pharmacists kind of were the first pioneers of really like, how do you apply and utilize these things? And so I think bioidentical hormones have a place and a role, but I also am a firm believer in you have to clean up that person's basic metabolic chemistry so that they're able to detoxify those hormones appropriately when you give them to them, right? They have to metabolize them. So for example, if you're eating a high sugar, low fiber diet, you're going to take any estrogen you metabolized and your body makes an enzyme that cleaves that estrogen from its handle that was carrying it out of the body. And now that estrogen circulates and can store in your tissue. So when you don't have enough fiber and you're eating a low sugar, high saturated fat diet, or high sugar, high saturated fat diet, that sets up a problem. People take...
you can't throw hormones at a bad diet.
I don't think it's the best way to do it for people, because it's very clear that having adequate fiber is really important in order to keep that glucuronidase from being made. The other piece that's important to understand is, there's such a range on bioidentical hormones, right? But there's people that are super physiologic dosing bioidentical hormones. On my way down here, I'm talking to a gentleman, and he called and he said, you know what, I've been on bioidentical hormones for a long time, and I had a hemoglobin of 20, meaning he was making way too much hemoglobin, and that made his blood sticky. And he ended up having a stroke. Now, does that mean the testosterone did that? No, it wasn't monitored the way it needed to be to keep him in range. And so to me, it's all about safety. So if you look at Joel Heidelbaum, University of Michigan, wrote the first textbook on men's health. And he feels pretty strongly about saying if men, as they're aging, can keep their testosterone like somewhere around 600 to max 900, that's a nice, safe range for men to be in. But what happens is anything that can be done can be overdone. And I think that's what we need to think about. So do I think people can have value by bioidentical hormone replacement therapy? I do. I do believe that there's value. But I think you need a responsible approach.
Well, this is what I know. It seems like whatever doctor you go to in the world, and I tell this to, because I've owned at least one was partner, bioidentical hormone and weight loss clinic. But it seems like whatever doctor you go to, if you're a female over 40 and you missed a period for over a year, let's say you're over 50, you have menopause, or you have starting to get irregular, everybody's getting a little bit of estrogen, a little bit of progesterone, or just progesterone. They're getting a little thyroid and a little testosterone, pellet form, topical form, whatever. And then for men, they're getting a little thyroid, a little bit of testosterone, a little bit of possibly some of the peptides, the precursors to some growth hormone, things like that. It seems like it's kind of a cookie cutter approach when it comes to optimizing hormones. And I realize some of them were getting pregnenolone and some of the vitamin D is a hormone.
Right.
But if you're not eating right, that's potentially, it's a big waste of time.
Well,
it can cause even more problems.
When we first talked, you saw that, right? It matters. And look, I'm a proponent, so I'm just telling you, I think that for a woman who's menopausal, who's having hot flashes and having other climacteric issues, and maybe her sex drive's down, her self-esteem's low, and if they don't have risk factors, that might preclude them to not being able to do it, then if it's going to improve their quality of life and make them have self-esteem again, and help them to feel better day in and day out, okay.
They call it a biohack. Like you're kind of cheating Mother Nature. You're giving them...
Well, you know, it's a different world now, right? Because when you think about it, biohack's a great term. If you're in another culture, by the time you're 55, you're put at the elders table. And it's your opinions that matter now. You don't have to get out there and work in the field anymore.
Okay.
Now at 55, we still have to perform, right? We still have to work, and we're looking for feeling as much vitality as we can. And I think there's enough evidence about, especially testosterone in men, that the responsible replacement of testosterone in men is probably going to reduce their risk of heart disease, improve their mortality.
Cancer.
Well, even in prostate cancer, they've shown that testosterone replacement doesn't really have a negative outcome on that.
I heard it has a positive outcome.
Exactly. There's some new evidence that says it could have a positive outcome. And of course, with women, there's a little bit more of sway because there's all this complication of when you give estrogen, where does it metabolize at? Does it metabolize down the healthy pathway, unhealthy pathway? Are you influencing that? A little more complex. But I think in general, we're trying to make sure that we can live the best we can as long as we can. And there's people that do good on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy and people that go, you know what, that wasn't for me. And I think that's okay.
In your center, is it prescribed?
My nurse practitioner utilizes bioidentical hormone replacement.
Because I know in the world of anti-aging...
In a conservative way, though, I'm going to say that.
In the world of anti-aging medicine, it seems like they're divided. Some people, who knows if he changed his mind on this, like guys like Mark Hyman, whatever, they don't believe in bioidentical hormones.
Right.
They only believe in just nutrition.
Right.
Okay. And then there's certain people, it's kind of a mix. They'll take it themselves, but they won't give it to their patients.
Right.
Maybe for liability reasons.
Right.
But you know, there's definitely something to it.
No, look, the science and the papers are there to support that there's something to trying to maintain the vigilance of your body. I'll give you a good example.
Okay.
If you're under high stress, high cortisol over a period of time, maybe you're going through a divorce, maybe you're working 2 jobs at a time and you're a single
We're just
parent.
looking at my emails up until 11 o'clock at night.
Whatever you want to call it, that's exactly
right. Is that a stress, though?
That's a stressor. Sure, it can be. It depends on how you are. If you look at them and go right to sleep and you sleep 8 hours and you feel great when you wake up, all right, maybe it's not bothering you. I don't know. But the reality is, if your cortisol goes up, it shuts down something called gonadotropin releasing hormone. And so for men, their testosterone starts to plummet because of their cortisol. This is even written about, called the cortisol testosterone ratio in terms of looking at athletes. The higher the cortisol, the lower the testosterone, the more risk for injury. But in an everyday person, if all I do is give the testosterone back and I don't make any movement towards balancing that cortisol out, I still have the metabolic effects of cortisol that I'm swimming upstream against, which is increased blood pressure, increased insulin resistance. And now what I'm doing is trying to giving that hormone back, do all the work instead of how do I balance things out so that if you are low in a bioidentical hormone, you're looking for hormones, you have the best chance for it to be successful for you, and you have a positive outcome, and it's more consistent, and you need to take less.
Interesting. So now, do people ever come to you just for weight loss?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Is that one of your easiest things to do?
Yeah. It's easy,
you were a
but it's
professional.
work.
You were also a bodybuilder.
Oh, I was
You were
back when I was
competitive
back when I was 20 years old. But I've worked with weight
At your
loss
age, you
for a
can
long
still
time.
compete today.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, 8 weeks from today, you can probably win a natural competition. I've seen you, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe.
And you're not taking steroids.
No, I'm not. I don't even take bioidentical hormones right now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. No, I'm very geared at right now. For me, at my stage in life, I'm really watching what I eat, and I'm trying to move, and I'm trying to manage my stress.
I had an old crotchety. It wasn't crotchety, just an old. You probably know him, Neil Hirschenbein.
Oh,
He's
of course.
a gastroenterologist. And he sat to me with
I
this
love Neil, though.
great guy, so do I.
Great doc.
He told me, he said, you know, Randy, it all comes down to this. And this was about 20 years ago. He said, I don't care what the disease is in the world. I don't care what your problem is, but you have a problem. We got to get rid of gluten, dairy, soy. We got to give you an oil change. We got to get you sleeping 8 hours. Okay. And we got to take a good multivitamin. We got to get your vegetables way up, or take something that's, you know, like a green drink, whatever. He said, and drink and great water.
Right.
And reduce your stress. Wear blue blockers. We're to vet it. Yeah, but he said you can't look at your computer and your phone because it blunts your serotonin. is that kind of what we're talking about in a way?
I think that's baseline. I mean, to me, if a lot of people just did that, we would have a dramatic shift in our healthcare. I mean, I think you'd have a lot of people feeling way better. I think there's other things that get in the way, right? So if there's environmental challenges, or maybe I'm nutrient deficient, or maybe it's a genetic, piece, or I've been on drugs. Say if you're a woman and you were on oral contraceptives for 15 years of your life, and it dropped your vitamin D levels out, and you reduced your calcium, and you lowered your folic acid for a period of years. So there's these nuances that you need to look at. But for a lot of people, I mean, I love Neil, by the way. He was in a lot of the, actually, he was in
still
my,
around?
I don't know, but he was actually in a lot of the classes that I was teaching when I was young.
Yeah, he's got to be 90 something by now.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what a great guy, and his spouse was equally fantastic. Really great people and cared about their patients. But I think those are key principles for us. We do that. That's what we teach and have taught for 30 years.
This whole idea of, like, let's say when Jesus is around over 2,000 years ago, our bodies haven't changed much. They can't really identify any evolution, right? We're the same.
No new organs.
But what's changed? We got smog. We got
eating, pesticides, right? I mean, all the information now on Roundup and how it affects the microbiome.
I know a little bit about your philosophy in this, but it's like when you see a patient, and I had Dinah Schwarzbein, an endocrinologist, she said people come to me with different levels of damage to their metabolism, right? One person comes to me, they just can't sleep, their weight's in order, their cravings are okay, but they can't sleep and they're starting to feel tired all the time. That's one person. Or a person feels pretty good and they just want to keep. So is that the way your clinic is? I mean, some people come to you, they have a little bit of arthritis, back pain. They got a lot of different problems. Some people have less problems.
Right.
So depending on their load of problems, you're going to give different diet recommendations, different supplement recommendations.
Maybe drug therapy. My nurse practitioner or medical director may think, hey, we need to do this kind of drug therapy. It's essential right now. It's something we have to do to Band-Aid on a bullet hole right now to kind of protect that person until we get them fully, back on board.
What do you think of blue blockers? The nighttime, they're a miracle for me.
No, I think it's good. I think it's good. I think it's important. Different people have different response to blue light. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It makes a big difference for people. I think it's legit. I definitely think that it's something that you can do.
This is a big topic. Now, when's your new book out? How do they get it?
Oh yeah, the new book. It's going to be out probably second quarter of this year. I mean, I'm finishing the kind of final edit on it. So it's ready to go, and they'll be able to find it on JimLaValle.com or MetabolicCode.com, but that's where they'll be able to find it.
Now, I told you, and I tell this to people that are trying to lose weight all the time. I said, number one, you got to stop reading diet books written by skinny doctors that have never lost weight in their lives, and you'll never see them without a shirt, right?
Right.
You're a guy that's walking your talk. But one could argue, this guy's never been fat in his life. He's never really had health issues.
Yeah, that's a funny one.
He's just maintaining himself.
That's a funny one because, at one point, when I got into
you were a football player.
Yeah, I was a 283-pound lineman, right?
You weren't a fat guy.
Well, I had a little bit of weight on me. And then when I got to, even when I was in, like I would say, my early 50s, I got up to about 238 pounds. I was pretty thick. I was a little overweight. I didn't want to admit it. And, I had to work to get it back. I mean, I held it well. So, you look at me and you would just go, wow, that's just a big guy, right? I mean, it wasn't like I had had a real big belly, but I can tell you right now, my waist is what it was when I was 15. And by the way, my brother, 476 pounds. My father, a type 2 diabetic that was very heavy until he came and lived with me. And my mother was a very large woman. Everyone in my family, my genes, and if you look at my genes, I have the obesity gene. I have the issues with glucose genes. I have all the different issues. I have the ApoE34 gene, where if I eat saturated fat, I'm going to plaque my arteries. I've got all the bad genes. So when people look at me and they go, oh yeah, it's easy for you. Not really.
Okay, so you've got the bad genes.
I have to work at it.
They talk about gene expression. So by eating properly, it's okay.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
No, I'm not a big believer in you're predetermined by your genes. In fact, I think, lifestyle is the cure for that, right? Making sure when you have a set of cards like I got dealt, you're going to do more.
So you believe guys like Bredesen that think that if you catch it early, you could reverse Alzheimer's and prevent it?
I actually believe Bredesen's, it's exactly right. And I think a lot of the work that Richie Shoemaker's doing, and my medical director, Dr. Andy Heyman, they're looking at transcriptomics. So what are all the genes that got lit up because of the stressors that hit your body? And then we can show those genes being turned off with the interventions. And that's exciting. That's next gen stuff.
Okay.
And so I totally believe.
Well, when you say turn them off, do you think there'll come a day where you could eat a certain way for a long period of time and retake a test and your gene expression is different on the markers?
Yes.
Really?
I already think it's there.
Have you seen it done? Somebody with APO3, 4, and now they're 2s?
Oh, no, that won't happen. But their ApoE3/4 won't be activated and they won't be plaquing their arteries because they're eating saturated fat, right? They won't turn their genes into different genes. It's just whether you think of your body like your genes are like a big circuit breaker box out in your house. And once that circuit breaker blows, until you walk back out there and flip that switch, you can change all the light bulbs you want. You can flip that switch on all you want. And guess what? Outcome's still the same. And so the intervention to that is, what am I doing with diet? Key nutrients that are of value. Probiotics can be of value. I said things like magnesium. It depends on what it is your situation is. But you gotta take that circuit breaker box, flip the switch.
So there's a new doctor in town who's smarter than you. Dr. Google, right? Everybody's Googling everything, right? Then you got Dr. Oz, cinnamon cures diabetes.
Sure.
Well, I mean, not that he's saying that, but there's a lot of confusion, more confusion than ever.
Right.
And I think we'll end with, if somebody's not feeling so good, if somebody wants to live a great, we're talking about longevity, they go to your center, you're going to kind of meet, and I'm paraphrasing, or my take today, is you're going to kind of meet them where they are and slowly transition them into where they can somehow end up eating like you and being satisfied, or eating like me and being satisfied.
I want to eat them, actually, to be exactly correct, I want them to eat for what's right for them and be satisfied. And feel good and say, you know what? I feel like my life got turned around through changing my diet, changing my lifestyle, taking nutrients, modifying the way I feel about stress, and taking charge of my life so I can empower myself to be a better parent, be a better spouse, be a better community member, be better at your job, be a better boss. I mean, all of that gives us great, think about it.
All of that happens when they get in your program.
Well, I think all of it happens when you start to feel better, right?
Yeah, when you feel great.
How do you feel when you feel great and you come into the studio?
Yeah, you're on fire. I felt good today. I told you I slept 9 hours.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So to me, I'm not trying to say that, I somehow grant miracles, because it's work. I tell people it's work. But the real reason behind it is because when you feel better, everything around you gets better. And then, that it's not fun managing chronic illnesses for yourself, right? I got to go to this specialist. I got to go to that specialist. I got to take these meds. That's not the fun part in life.
Anecdotal stories. You have people that were suffering with just a ton of problems, lots of prescription medications. They've weaned off completely and they feel great.
I'll give you a great example. There's a guy that came to me, and California's a state where you could do this. He is a marijuana grower. He was around a lot of pesticides and he was around a lot of mold, right? He had rheumatoid arthritis, 36 years old, big nodules, right, on his feet, on his hands, breastplate pain. We did a food sensitivity test on him. We did our kind of metabolic code approach to him and basically taught him how to eat again. Worked on cleaning up that detoxification pathway to try to, get some sweat going. Let's try to move some of these pesticides that you're exposed to out. And you know what? It's 6 months later. He has no more nodules. His chest pain's gone. And he comes into me now and he goes, I love the way I eat. And I feel great. I can get off the floor I can get down on the floor with my kid, my newborn baby, and I can get up off the floor. And I could give you thousands of those stories. I've been at this for a long, long time. And once again...
Because in a way it is that simple. It's what you're putting in your mouth.
And I think it's the most important...
And what you're watching and what you're feeding your head.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's one of the most important things you do is what you put in your mouth.
Is that right? So I told you, another one of my friends, he's a really good doctor, my friend Robert. Really good doctor. because he was feeling kind of lethargic. I call him a sloth. That's our sarcasm. I've known it since high school. And I go, did he ever ask you what you eat? No. Like, of course not.
It's so important, and I think it's a delicate subject because I think a lot of times doctors are faced with some big challenges. Because once again, I trained and taught at the medical school at University of Cincinnati. I get it. I've been around a lot of conventional docs. They're pressured by time, and
they may not have the education.
And they may not have the education, right? And that's okay.
If they're overweight themselves, it's showing they haven't figured it out.
Yeah, that hurts. It hurts the credibility. It does. But the bottom line is, it's hard to convince somebody in 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Or 10 minutes. And even when you try to do that, if you don't have the tools to give them to be successful. And I remember I talked to a doc who was in the American Academy of Family Practice, and he said, you know what? When a person with diabetes comes into me, I'll talk to them for 20 minutes to try to get them to understand the power of their diabetes and what it's doing to their future health. And all the risk factors, from the blindness to the amputation to the heart disease to the kidney disease, you name it, the possible cancer risk that happens. But you know what? For the next 2 months, 29 days, 23 hours, and 30 minutes, that person with diabetes isn't thinking of me, and I'm on thinking about other patients. And I think that's where the beauty of digital technology is now helping us to stay tethered to people. Because I do believe when we can stay tethered to people and keep them motivated with incremental change, now we can start to move that needle. And I think that's really important. And they can see the
light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Where they can follow through.
Absolutely. So I think there is some positives to, all this kind of digital world we're now in, even though, I remember having only a black and white TV, right? So I think that whole aspect of behavior modification, tethering to a practice, being able to have more communication with individuals to keep them on task, report how they're doing, I think we're going to see a big uptick in how people are going to do.
So if somebody wants to see you, they've heard the podcast, maybe they've watched it, they can fly in to see you in Orange County. You still see patients?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see people.
What about somebody in another state that wants a Zoom or whatever, Skype meeting?
We've got that set up too, that they could do a Skype meeting with us. Absolutely. Yeah, easy to do.
And
they can go to jimlavelle.com.
That's like you said, you don't have to advertise because
I don't advertise. It's part of it. Look, I've written a lot of books and I've been on the circuit, so I get a lot of doctors to refer people to me. But I would say in general, I really believe that I want people who have come to me to be my salespeople. I want them to talk to people about how it changed.
And they can't even explain what you do. It's like they have to say, you just have to see him. You just have to meet him, right? Yeah. Like if I was trying to say what you do, I don't even know where to begin, right?
Well, I help restore people's metabolisms. I get rid of their metabolic roadblocks and restore their body's ability to produce energy and feel vitality and be able to really perform at its best optimal level. It's performance health.
Okay, good. Good job, by the way. And congratulations. I don't know how long you've been co-chair of the American Academy of Anti-Aging Medicine with their education.
Been quite a few years.
But that's a big responsibility because that's where all the medical doctors in the country and DOs and nutritionists are learning this type of medicine.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, and it's wonderful to get bright minds, literally very bright minds coming in to learn. And I learn a lot too. I mean, I learn every time I teach.
You do? Okay, well, look, we're out of time. I want to thank you so much for coming on out. You're only about an hour and a half away. I'm gonna go through your blood work thing. Great. What you showed me over there in the green room. Let's do it. I wish I could show that on a future episode.
Let's do it.
It's very motivating. Kind of showing you, okay, this is where you are health-wise. Here's maximum health.
Let's do it.
How do you get there? It's a different, what'd you call it?
It's your Metaflamation index, and it's literally about your metabolic code is all about where your 5 triads are at of dysfunction. Where do you score the highest, and where do we need to focus on getting you to be the best you can be?
To get you to chronic
health. Get you to chronic health. Let's do your blood and let's.
Did you bring your needles? You could do.
Bring your needles. That's for the nurses, man. That's not me.
All right, thanks again for coming.
All right, it was
Good
great.
Stuff. You've been watching The Wellness Hour. I'm Randy Alvarez. That's this week's podcast. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for watching The Wellness Hour, the leader in medical news with your host, Randy Alvarez, the authority on health issues.